Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'll have another Celtic related video tomorrow, don't worry, don't behead me, because we're going to be talking about the Premier League now. Next season I want to try and cover more football. I say this fucking every year, right? Next year I'd hopefully like to try and do like a kind of weekend review thing of more than just Celtic, Scottish football, English football. I'll try my best, we'll see how it goes if I have the time. With uni and that starting, the only time will tell, we'll see how it goes. But today I'm going to do a video very similar to my last video, except from we're heading down south to do it. I'm going to react to my Premier League predictions from the start of the season, and let's just say we had a howler here. It did not go well at all. We didn't get one correct, but it's nice to kind of reflect and look what I did think at the start of the season versus the reality of how things actually finished. Now, the Premier League is far harder to predict than up here. There's more teams, first of all. There's 20 teams you have to predict in 20 places. There's, you know, the money being spent, which can, you know, make a team swing in either direction. And that's been very evident this season for a lot of teams, that a lot of money has done them good, but a lot of money also does them bad. Now, I feel like the Premier League isn't as entertaining as what it was, you know, even like a few years ago when Alex Ferguson was in the league. It really hasn't. This year I have far more enjoyed Scottish football than English football. I've not watched it anywhere near as much. I even watched German football more. But, you know what, still anyway, I still know my knowledge, I still have my bit there, you know, so I'm going to reflect, and I'm going to give my reactions to what I predicted from the start of the season. If you're new to the channel, since, you know, Premier League fans might be watching, you know, make sure I hit like and subscribe. Slate Celtic all you like. For now, I'll be nice to you, so you can maybe press subscribe. And I will get right into it because I've got 20 teams to talk about here, and I don't want to drag the video at an hour. So let's just get cracking right into it. So we'll start with the relegation zone then, where you can already see over on whatever fucking side of the screen it's at. We were very off with one of them. But Huddersfield and Brighton, there's the first two teams to talk about. Those two came up from the Championship, obviously, at the start of the season. First ever time being in the Premier League for the two of them, and I thought they'd go right back down, but hats off to both David Wagner and Chris Hughton. They done fantastically to keep their teams up. They signed well, they spent their money wisely, and throughout the season they were thoroughly entertaining. You know, there were two teams, you know, for wanting to stay in the league and battling for survival and such, especially Huddersfield. They were more towards that end of battling for survival as it came to the last few weeks. They always played entertaining enough. They're not one of those teams you sit down and watch like West Brom or Stoke, who are just absolute shit and no entertainment to them whatsoever. These two teams actually did offer something this year, and they got some really big results. I remember Huddersfield beat the first team to beat Manchester United, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that Huddersfield had beaten Man United. But both of them had very strong seasons and well more deserving to stay up. And whether they'll be able to do it again next season, different story. You know, you get that second season syndrome that a lot of people go on about. Will they manage to stay up again? I don't know. We'll see what I predict next year. But they've got a lot of work to do during the summer to keep both their best players, and also to just, you know, sign up, invest well and improve their teams. They've got some great players between them. You know, the two players coming to mind, Pascal Grouse for Brighton and Aaron Moy for Huddersfield, both fantastic players. They'll be doing their best to keep a hold of them, especially Grouse. Big fan of him. I think he is a fantastic player. But Burnley 18th, I predicted. Boy, was I off. Very, very off. 11 places out, in fact. They got themselves into the Europa League. I thought they were going to go down. And I'm glad they've finished 7th, because Burnley are one of the teams who I like to root for and see do well. And just in that way, like, I just think, I'd like to see Burnley win the day. You know, you always have that team, I'd like to see them win the day. I mean, I don't feel anything towards them. I don't support them or anything. I mean, you wouldn't fucking see me cutting about the East End of Glasgow with a Burnley top on anytime soon, right? But to finish 7th, fantastic. Clap for Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche, my opinion, manager of the year for what he done. I was criticising him in my video. If you watched it, you'll remember I was saying he signed the likes of Joe Walters, or John Walters, whatever his name is, Phil Bardsley. They're definitely going down. That was my initiate thought towards it. Immediate thought towards it. Initiate? What? I thought they were going to go down. Because I didn't think they signed well. I just didn't see them able to stay up and fight against the big teams, but they did fight from game one. You know, they beat Chelsea in the opening game of the season, and really just set the tone for the whole season for them. And can they build on that? Can they go any further? Can they go anywhere in the Europa League is the question for Burnley next season. Who knows? But this year, it'll be a season to remember for Burnley fans, a fantastic season. Whether they'll replicate that again is a completely different matter, but they'll always be able to remember that. And I was very wrong. Let's just leave it at that. I was very, very wrong with Burnley. And really, that was the biggest blunder I made when it came to predicting this at the start of the season. Now, probably the hardest part to predict. I mean, I say that and I got none right in the first part, but this to me is the hardest part to predict. This middle part of the table, the lower half, the mid-table sides. It was very hard to predict, and you'll see that I didn't get any right. I didn't get any right through the whole table, but a lot of them were off you. You see -6s, you see -8s, you see +4s and shit like that. I didn't get a lot right, so I mean, Crystal Palace, start with them very briefly. I said it in my video, I said De Boer won't last 6 months. He barely lasted 6 games. A horrible appointment. And I said I would actually think about putting them in the relegation zone, but Roy Hodgson came in, and once again, hats off to him too. Hats off to every fucking manager at this point. He came in and he saved Palace. Extraordinary work after, you know, the kind of train wreck that was his England career as manager of them. He came into Crystal Palace, done a fantastic job, managed to keep them up and guided them in an 11th place finish. And I really do think they can build on that next year. I think they could get into that top half if they keep a hold of Wilfried Zaha, if they sign up well. There's no reason why they can't break into the top half next year. Played some very entertaining football with Roy Hodgson in charge at points. Really entertaining football. And they made a horrid decision to sack to bring in De Boer, and a fantastic decision to sack him, because they would have went down if they lasted any longer. They sacked him at the right time, and I usually don't agree with sacking managers so early without giving them a chance, but for De Boer, I mean, he didn't score any goals in his first 7 games, didn't get a point in his first 7 games. He had to go. From the minute he was signed, I knew he was going to be a horrific appointment in charge of Crystal Palace, and he got sacked. Watford, I wasn't too far off with. Not much to say about that, because, you know, I kind of predict, you know, when you get in the kind of +1, +2, -1, -2 range, you're basically right with the Premier League, aren't you? So Watford, I wasn't too far with. I'm surprised Marco Silva really didn't, you know, get that great a finish after how, you know, well he looked with Hull and how well he started the season with Watford. You know, they started quite well and then it just kind of tailed off and the form dipped and dipped and dipped. But Watford, I wasn't too far off with. I predicted 16th, they finished 14th, so better than I thought, really. But will they be able to stay up next season? That's the question, because they're one of the teams who I'd say are favourites to maybe go down next year with the position they currently find themselves in. That manager merry-go-round keeps going round, pretty much. Stoke, what a horrid season for them. I predicted 15th. They are down. They got rid of Mark Hughes, maybe too late. They brought in Paul Lambert, not the best of appointments. And ultimately, they have suffered relegation. Whether they'll come right back up is a different story. They might end up like Sunderland. I do think Stoke can come back up though. You know, I had 10 strong years in the Premier League. I just thought, you know, they've stayed up all these years, that they'll probably be able to stay up this year, but this year just wasn't the year. They really just have an ageing squad, not really any, you know, prolific players. Shaqiri's about it. They lost Arnautovic, a really big blow, and they just didn't replace him well. So a lot of work for Stoke to do next season to get back up. Swansea, I also was 4 off. I predicted 14th. They've went down. Once again, Paul Clement was sacked. And then Carvajal was brought in, and really there was just no any run of form for them. They just couldn't find form. They went down, and there's not much to say about them. They just weren't. They were very lacklustre, and the relegation was looming for them pretty much the whole season. So they ended up finishing 18th. They're down. Newcastle, I predicted 13th. They finished 10. I've got -3 there. That's meant to say +3, right? Before you criticise my maths. Yep, I failed higher maths. We went over this in the last video in the comments section. I got one wrong. It's meant to say +3. Newcastle, though, a very strong season, Rafa Benitez, with having such a, you know, shoestring budget. You know, he didn't have heavy investment. He had to utilise loan deals. He had to sign cheaply. And the result paid off. You know, he's got a 10th place finish. Whether he stays on at Newcastle or not, I think he will. You know, there's a lot of talk about if he'll stay on or not. He probably wants that investment there. Still a lot of questioning as to what's happening with the ownership of Newcastle and such. So hopefully he does get the investment, because I do like Rafa Benitez. I think Newcastle, if they do sign up, they could go further than 10th place. They are a big club, a massive club, and in terms of their support and such, and their fans will be urging them to spend money. But a strong season, you know, I think it's the lowest points tally for a 10th place finish ever. But, you know, for coming up right back from the Championship, you know, they were just promoted to get a 10th place finish. That is very, very strong, very good. I would say Newcastle fans should be happy with that. And they had some really good performers as well this year. I mean, look at John Joe Shelby. He had a fantastic season. So I think there's a lot of positives from Newcastle's season that the fans can be happy with. West Brom, I predicted 12th. 20th, rock bottom. You know, I just thought, you know, they had a strong season before. What is it? They finished 10th last year. Tony Pulis, I thought, had it figured out. You know, he didn't play entertaining football by no means, but you know, it was football that got him points and it got him high in the board. But after getting sacked, it was just too late to save themselves. After they appointed Alan Pardew, that was a mistake from minute one, appointing him as manager. I would have rather stuck with... There's a phone. Happens every now and then, doesn't it? I would have rather stuck with Pulis for a bit longer and seen him try to save them, which I think he could have, because it's what Pulis does, rather than appoint someone like Alan Pardew, who's one of the worst managers in the country, hands down. And ultimately, it was too late for Darren Moore, is that his name, to do anything. Despite trying his hardest and despite getting some really big results, it was just too late. Too late for West Brom, and ultimately they're down. I think they'll come right back up though. I'm not so confident in Stoke, but West Brom I think will come right back up. I think if Darren Moore continues in charge, I mean, look at the big results and the way he got them playing towards the end of the season there. If he can install that belief in them, the Championship, to get right back up, I think we'll be seeing them next season. Southampton, I predicted 11th. They finished 17th even, 17th. Very, very bad season for Southampton. After the last few years have been, you know, very, very good for Southampton. You know, they had Coleman, they had Pochettino, two very strong managers, some very strong teams, and got some very good finishes in the Premier League over the past few seasons. And it's just kind of consistent, you know, that kind of area in the table, 10th, 11th, areas like that. And I thought they would continue that, but Pellegrino, not a good appointment. And he ultimately just didn't succeed at Southampton, and it saw them finish that low down. They could have went down. Mark Hughes saving them at the last minute, and it was a very poor season for them. Mark Hughes is staying on as Southampton manager, as we know now. So what will they do next season to build on trying to rebuild, even because they've got a lot of rebuilding to do. They've got to sign a lot of players because right now they're not a good team, and they need to do some work. Leicester, 10th place I predicted. This is the closest one I think I got in the whole thing. Leicester, I predicted 10th, they finished 9th. Pretty much everything I said at the start of the season. I was surprised that Shakespeare, you know, didn't really get them going at the start of things, and it was quite poor. And then they had to sack him. They brought in Claude Puel, who now looks as though will be gone as well. So it's a very confusing time at Leicester. Since winning the league, they got rid of Ranieri, they brought in Shakespeare, they got rid of Shakespeare, they brought in Puel, they're probably getting rid of Puel. Very, very hectic times at Leicester, and it seems like they're just so far away from what they were at in 2016. But, I mean, they're never going to be able to repeat that again. That was sensational, and it was a one-time thing. But I think for finishing 9th after a sacking and such, that's not too bad. And onwards and upwards for them, try and push for Europa League football next season. The wee area between 9th and 5th, Bournemouth, I predicted 9th. I was very ambitious in them. I said they finished 9th. They weren't too far off, to be fair, 12th, only 3 places out, but it just really never hit the heights that they did the season before. They did struggle at points, you know. I think it was a long stretch of the season where they were actually in the relegation zone. But Eddie Howe has done a fantastic job. 3 seasons in the Premier League now, defying a lot of expectations. And I think ultimately for a club the size of Bournemouth, the aim is always just stay up and get as high in the table as you can, and he's done a fantastic job at keeping them up. So I think Eddie Howe should be very proud of what he's done with Bournemouth over the past few seasons, and once again proving how good a manager he is. And I wouldn't knock it back a 12th place finish. So Bournemouth fans, I'd be personally happy. It's not a bad finish, but I was 3 out. West Ham, Jesus Christ, I was ambitious with them. 8th, Bilic, gone. Moyes brought in, and I really wanted to see Moyes succeed. I remember when he was appointed and everybody was slating him and West Ham for the appointment of him as manager. I really wanted to see Moyes, you know, kind of show his doubters and prove them wrong. Show that he has got a talent as a manager, and he has to an extent. We've seen that at Everton and Preston. He showed he can be a good manager, but his career's on a downward slope. And West Ham, they were on a continuous downward slope this season. There was points where they looked okay. Arnautovic was, you know, giving them a little bit of shout about here and there, and they got some decent results. But ultimately, a very poor season considering what they've done in the summer. They brought in some great players: Chicharito, Arnautovic, Joe Hart. They made big signings, and I remember Mourinho saying they look like, the way they're signing, it looks like they want to be a team that's challenging for, you know, top 4 football, and they just didn't get anywhere near the place they should have been for that money that they spent. So a very disappointing season, I'd say, for West Ham, and they need to appoint a good manager. I think one of the key problems is just the Olympic Stadium, and honestly, in all honesty, I just don't think they can find the form they want at that stadium, and they can't find the momentum. Upton Park long gone now, so they need to find something, and they need to appoint the right man, make the right signings, and get rid of the dead wood. I think that's one of the problems at West Ham. They've got a lot of players who are just underperforming, don't look as though they want to be there. They need to get rid of them and bring in players who will play for the club. 7th I predicted, 7th I predicted Everton, who finished 8th, -1. Disappointing season for Everton. I was very excited to see what they were going to do. One of the teams I was most buzzing to watch after their summer transfer window. Ronald Koeman finished 7th with them last year. You know, he had a fantastic season, and then he signed terrifically. It looked terrific anyway, the likes of Wayne Rooney, David Clashin, Sandro, Michael Keane, Jordan Pickford. All these signings were brought in, and you're thinking, this is a team who could genuinely challenge for top 4 football if they can hit it. And it just never. And even in the Europa League, massive disappointment for Everton and their fans. They never made any progress in that stage. Got knocked out in the group stages. So it was a very disappointing season for Everton, and I was very disappointed watching on. I was standing there by Rooney, as you know, he's like my favourite player ever, so I was standing there watching him. He had a decent season as well, for a guy his age and a lot of the criticism he gets. I thought he had a decent season. Allardyce came in, steadied the ship, he's now gone, sacked this morning. But where they go next season, wait and see. I think it's going to be an exciting season again for Everton if they can get a good manager. And if they could play the right football, they could very much be up there for, you know, European competition qualification. So, big season for them. Spurs, I predicted 6th. They've done a lot better than that. I just didn't think they'd hit it at Wembley, in all honesty. I thought they were going to struggle a lot. But they finished 3rd. Champions League football again for them. Harry Kane having another phenomenal season. And really, I was quite harsh on them. Liverpool, I predicted 5th. They finished 4th. I mean, Mo Salah. I mean, would they have finished 4th without Mo Salah? No, they wouldn't have. But now they're in a Champions League final. It's a very big season for Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp is enjoying life right now, I'd say. Big final to go now. But they got the top 4. That's ultimately what Liverpool aim for. And I don't think they can be too disappointed with the way this season's gone whatsoever. So the top 4 then, I was very wrong. 2 of them didn't even make the top 4. Arsenal, Wenger's last season. Mad. Still can't believe he's gone. Can't not believe that. I never thought I'd see the day. They finished 6th though. No Champions League football once again. A disappointing season. Missed out in the Europa League final as well. Getting knocked out in the semis. No cups. So probably now is the right time for Wenger to step down. And big season ahead of them. Still waiting to hear who will be appointed manager. Rumours of Arteta, Vieira, Allegri. We don't know who it will be. But they've got a big summer ahead of them in the terms of getting the right manager and the right coaching staff. And they've got some great players, and they just couldn't click this season. You know, they have Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ozil. That they 3 alone, that is crazy. And they just couldn't find any sort of form this year. 1 away win in the second half of the season, and it was the last game there. Terrible stuff from them, and I really did overestimate how well they would do. Chelsea, they had a honker. Not very good at defending their title, we now know. Finishing 5th, I predicted they'd finish 3rd. No Champions League football for them. They were knocked out in the last 16, was it? Or for Barcelona, was it the quarterfinals? Can't remember. But a poor season nonetheless. And they want to put that one behind them. Conte will probably leave, but I was quite off with them as well. Man City and Man United, talk about the top. I really need to stop every year overestimating how good Manchester United are. Disappointing season. As you know, I do like Manchester United, so it was disappointing to watch on it and see Man City win by such a large margin. They were just sensational. Hats off to Pep Guardiola, that's all I can say. They were by far the best team in the country, and United just were not consistent enough. They started slipping up in small games. You know, they won the big games, and then they lost to the likes of Huddersfield and Brighton and Newcastle, and here and there they just dropped silly points and couldn't keep up with City. Ultimately, if we won those games, we still would have lost the league, Man United. So, I mean, Man City deserving champions. I mixed those 2 up, and I think next year will be the first time I'll probably have to sit down and say I don't think United will win the league unless there is a big summer. God knows who United can bring in to catch that City team at the minute, because it's unbelievable. It's painful to sit in and watch, but they're the champions. I mixed those 2 up. And Man City, 100 points, record breakers. De Bruyne, sensational. United are a lot of underperformers this year, and they need to fix that for next season. So, there's it. Didn't get one right. Fantastic at predicting stuff, aren't I? Let's hope we can do better next year. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. I appreciate all support. Check out Dynamic Clothing, link will be in the description, and I'll see you all next time.